Scout here. So today's video, I'm going to be going over the things I do and don't like about this bike, and after owning it for now what it has 21,000 miles. Just so you guys can see, I'll show you whether you guys can see it in the video. So right here I've got 21,000 miles on the bike. This is a 2020 Indian Scout 60 bobber. Now, those of you that aren't familiar, number one, my name is Scooter Bob Scout. I just post motorcycle videos. Also, if you guys are going to go check out my TikTok video, I post a lot over there. My TikTok channel, I'm sorry. I post a lot more videos and content over there, but I'm kind of sort of leaning towards going to strictly YouTube because TikTok is absolute garbage. It's the same thing as my YouTube, so if you guys want to go follow me there, that would be cool. But today, I want to talk about the things I do and don't like about this bike after owning it for 21,000 miles. So first off, this has been one of my dream bikes. I know that there's a difference between the regular Scout and this, the Scout 60. It's the same exact bike. If we were to park them right next to each other, the only difference that you would be able to tell is the valve covers here on the regular Scout are polished aluminum. So it's kind of like this color, which is like the polished aluminum look. And on the regular Scouts, it's that. On the Scout 60s, you've got the matte black valve covers on it. Also too, this regular Scout is a 69 cubic inch motor. This is a 60, hence why they call it the Scout 60, but it's the same motor, same transmission, same frame, brakes, the whole kit caboodle. It's the same exact bike, just a little down on power. Regular Scout puts out about 100 horse stock, and the Scout 60 stock is like 78. And let me tell you something, for those of you out there who think that's not a whole lot, to put it in perspective, the Scout's an 1100 cc, the Scout 60 is 1000 cc, and these bikes are liquid cooled. It's plenty of freaking power. 100 horse on a bike that's 550 pounds, it's a lot of power. Even 78 horse, it's quite a lot. This bike, if you ain't careful, it'll come out from underneath it. Because the first thing I want to talk about, due to the power of these bikes, the first thing I do not like, this seat. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, I do have a Corbin that I bought, but I was having a lot of issues with this bike, which I'll get into later, so I switched the single seat over just to make sure I could button up a few of those issues. This is a stock factory seat. The Corbin goes all the way up, wraps around, stops about right here. Gorgeous seat. You can check some of my other videos. I did another walk around earlier on my channel. You can check that out, and it shows everything else. The seat on the bike, it's beautiful. It mounts to here. Actually, no, it mounts under here, so it's kind of a pain in the ass to keep taking the seat on and off in order to get to components on the engine. So before I get into anything else, the seat, it's iffy. These bikes have a lot of pep, and if you're not used to riding a bike with anything more than 60 horsepower that's kind of light like this is, you crack the throttle, you'll slide off the seat. You really got to hold on. I've got the bike tuned up. It's got more power. So that's something I love about this bike. The pipes. Shorty Moto GP, they're $100. I know I'm going to get hate in the comments saying, oh, why didn't you get an S&S exhaust or an Arlen Nass or whatever it may be as far as exhaust goes. Here's why. $100 straight pipes. This whole exhaust flows perfectly with those pipes. Now, they're ridiculously loud and I have to wear earplugs, but it's okay. Everybody else loves it around me, and I think it sounds sick. With the pipes, I also have the Stage 1 Indian open air box, as well as the DynoJet PV3 power commander on it. And I sent them a bunch of logs of a couple rides, and they built me a custom map for it. And the last time I had this bike dynoed with everything done to it, I was putting down 82 horsepower to the rear wheel. At the crank, this bike's putting down the same power as this regular Scout. So it's around 100 to 102 horsepower at the crank, 82 horsepower to the wheel if you factor in 20% power loss. Now, mind you, again, my bike with everything done to it does 82 horsepower to the wheel, and this bike bone stock is 78 horsepower crank. So this thing rides out pretty fucking good. And that's another thing I want to talk about this bike. The power for being bang for your buck. The regular Scout, the reason why I didn't get that bike is because it was a couple grand more expensive, and it was just outside of my payment budget as far as monthly payments. This was the first year of this bike, and mind you, they're the same exact bike. This was just a little bit slower, which I was cool with. I didn't care. They're still quite fast for what they are. But this bike, brand new, was let's say $9,000 rounded out. Tax tag, title, dealer fee, accessories, which was the rear pegs and the Corbin seat, which is at the house. It was like $12,000. So if I would have bought the regular Scout, it would have been $14,000 to $16,000, depending on, and then after tax tag, dealer fee, it would have been 18 to maybe 19. Let's just roughly say. I'm probably wrong. If you guys, any of my guys who have regular Scouts and they paid it for them brand new, you guys post in the comments on what you guys paid out the door. But with that being said, Scout's 4 to 5 grand, Scout 60, 4 to 5 grand cheaper. And with everything I've got done to this for a couple $100, I'm putting down big Scout power. And if I decide to go anywhere in the future as far as making this bike faster, for I think it's like 2 to 3 grand, there's a company that makes a big bore kit for this, and it takes, you can put it on the regular Scout or the Scout 60, and it's a 1300 cc big bore kit. Now I tried to find it, but a couple forums that I saw, these guys with iridium plugs, open air box, a good exhaust, the big bore kit, and a really good tune, these guys are able to put 120 horsepower to the rear wheel out of these bikes with the big bore kit. And I think just a little over. I haven't dug too deep, but they're nasty. So later in the future, I might look at that. God forbid, knock on wood, nothing happens to this bike, which is another thing I want to talk about, how fucking reliable this bike is. I'm going to tell you right now, I kick the ever-loving shit out of this thing, and this is the 5th rear tire I've put on this bike in 21,000 miles, and I've put 1 front tire on it. So that tells you how hard I ride. You guys can watch my videos and y'all can see why I go through tires so much. But I ride the shit out of this bike. Now mind you, it's not a sport bike, but I ride it like one. All my buddies have sport bikes. I got a couple guys who have cruisers. I ride this bitch as hard as they do, and they love it. It is so cool being able to take a bike like this and do what I do with it, riding with sport bikes. Now mind you, yes, they'll get me in straights, they'll get me around corners, but the fact that I'm able to take this bike and ride it so well to even keep up, it's awesome. It'll do it if you let it. The only thing that I wish that this bike had, I just wish it was a little bit taller, but if I wanted to raise this bike, I might as well just go buy an FTR 1200, which I do want. They're sweet bikes. But the reliability of this engine, man, you guys can look up the forums and everything, dude. This bike's awesome. Everything on this bike, it's still got the factory clutch, knock on wood, factory clutch. I've replaced the brakes on it. It's a liquid cooled V-twin, and you can't go wrong with it, guys. These engines have been proven to be extremely reliable, and I've kicked the crap out of this bike. I ride the ever-loving, every penny it's worth, I ride this bike for, and it just takes the abuse, man. The only other bike I've owned that could take this much abuse was my 98 Kawasaki Vulcan BN800 Classic, which I missed that bike. Now, riding capability, like I said, it keeps up with sport bikes and stuff, but the downfall to this bike, it's a bobber. The regular platform is about 1 inch or 2 inches higher. The bobber is a lower platform, so you lose about 1 inch or 2 inches of ride height, and it lowers the center of gravity. Just because, I mean, look at it, it makes it nice and sleek. Now, as far as comfortability riding the bike, these bikes brand new, the suspension is ass, absolute ass. It's nice and stiff for when you really want to go around a corner, or if you ride it real hard, it's awesome. But man, you hit a couple potholes, you hit some speed bumps, your lower back pays for it. It's an extremely stiff suspension, and with how hard I've ridden it, finally the suspension softened up a little bit, so it's not so bad. Now, with saying that, with suspension, since this thing has 21,000 miles, my forks are starting to get a little spongy, so I'm gonna have to end up replacing them here soon. I haven't really done a whole lot of research on performance as far as the front shocks go. If anybody knows someone that has a performance kit, or like a place, or someone that has a Scout that has an upgraded fork kit, please shoot me a comment. I'd love to be able to go check them out, because I haven't really dug so far to be able to put an aftermarket set of forks on this bike, which I really want to do. Maintenance on it, fairly simple. It's got 2 oil plugs on the bottom. The oil filter is right back there. You probably won't be able to see it, but it's right behind the little circle thing, which is a horn right there. It's right there. Super easy to change the oil. The brakes are super easy. I mean, if you've got a basic set of knowledge, you can do your maintenance on your bike pretty easy. Now, downside to maintenance on this bike: spark plugs or the air filter. You have to take your seat off. With a single seat, it's okay, but with the Corbin, you have to take all that bullshit off, and it's just a pain in the ass. Take that off. There's 4 bolts here. Pull the tank off, undo the plug relay for the fuel pump, undo the grommet for the fuel line. Tank comes off, and then you can get to your air intake for the air filter. Now, to get to your spark plugs, you then have to take, there's these 2 bolts here, there's 2 bolts here, and on the other side too, there's a cross member that's about this long on this side and that side that hold this top part of the frame together. You have to take those 2 off, then pull the airbox off in order to get down to your spark plugs. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass and takes quite a little bit of time, but if you know what you're doing, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. I just replaced them not even a couple 100 miles ago. I took it up to Tail of the Dragon. Ooh, that is beautiful. GT500, sweet car. Took it up Tail of the Dragon. You guys go check that video out. It was a lot of fun. Rode the absolute piss out of this bike. That's why I got new pegs, but I have my old ones just in case I decide to go ride really hard. I can just change those out, because these are more or less for show, and I really don't want to scratch those up. Funny enough, these are Harley Davidson pegs, half-assed jerry-rigged to some adapters for the Scouts, and it worked. But yeah, I ended up riding the crap out of it up at Tail of the Dragon, and I felt it a little down on power, and I knew that it was time for a set of plugs. After I put the plugs in it, I put the factory ones in it that came in it. I wanted iridiums, but I was pressed on time to get them. I wasn't able to do it, but new plugs are better than burnout plugs. And yeah, it's come alive since I put brand new set of plugs on it. Another thing that I'm not really fond of, which is kind of my fault, but I wish that I could have gotten the ABS model. I really wish I could have gotten the ABS model. Just because, I mean, safety, man. Safety on a motorcycle is number fucking 1. The brakes on this are great, but the front brakes, man, when I was up at North Carolina, I realized that this thing needs a better set of front brakes all day long. I wish it was a twin caliper front with ABS on it. It would just make this bike so much better to ride, because there's times where I would come into a corner coming pretty hot. I'd go to grab a handful of brake, and I'd keep squeezing, and I just wish it would bite a little bit more. Now, I'm sure I could get a set of better pads for the front and for the rear to make it bite a little bit better, but that's later on down the road. I don't really, that's the first time I've ridden up there, and I don't plan on going back for at least another year, because I got a lot of stuff coming up this next year with family and finances, so I'll get them right by then. But everything else about this bike is awesome. And just, if you guys are looking to get a bike like this, like a cruiser platform that's nice, sleek, beautiful, very reliable, kind of sort of easy to maintain, I highly recommend this. Also too, these bikes, another great reliable thing about these bikes is the fact that they are belt driven, and belts are so much easier to maintain than a chain, because there's no maintenance hardly. Like if you let them sit for a long time, you have to condition them, this and that, yada yada yada. This bike, the most it sits is maybe a week or 2 at a time before I jump back on it again and ride it for days on end. And it's awesome going from a bike that had a chain to going to this. It's just so much better, man, so much better. Plus, that snapping and hitting you is not going to hurt as bad as a chain snapping and hitting you in the side of the leg, which I know about. The one on my Vulcan broke, and it looked like I got hit in the side of my leg with a baseball bat. It hurt. I'm surprised it didn't cut my leg open. thankfully, you know, I was riding that day with some pretty thick jeans, and that helped me. But I love the belt drive on this bike. Oh, I didn't get into it. So I know that I talked about the difference between the Scout and the Scout 60. It's the same motor, same transmission. Another main difference between those two bikes, aside from power and the bore and stroke, the transmission. The Scout 60s are a 5-speed, the regular Scout's a 6-speed. It's the same transmission, it's just missing one gear. But other than that, it's all the same. This bike here has just been, everything about it is awesome. I haven't had any real major issues with it, knock on wood. The only thing I can say is this bike, if you guys are looking for something extremely reliable, pretty dang quick for what they are, and you just something that just looks awesome, I highly recommend buying one of these, because for 21,000 miles and as hard as I ride this is proof right here that this bike just, they're awesome, they're reliable, they pay for themselves. So those of you who are new, hell, I'd even suggest this as a starter bike because it's got plenty of power. Ooh, that's a Chrysler. That's a Chrysler Prowler. Good looking car, sorry. But they're just all around great bikes, guys. And I love all motorcycles, man. Like, I've had cruisers, that's my forte, but I do want a naked sport bike. I have guys that have them. I've ridden on my buddies' bikes. They've let me try out riding. I've done test rides on them all kinds of bikes, man. And I love all motorcycles. I'm just gonna throw it out there. It's just my preference is this because I've got metal in my neck, so having to sit like this is perfect for me. But having to lean forward, it gets uncomfortable over time with my neck. So that's just why. And plus, I'm crazy. I'm absolutely nuts. I like being the fucking cruiser guy that holds it down with a bunch of sport bikes, because it's cool to be able to go somewhere and your sport bike guys be like, yo, this cruiser guy keeps up with us, you know. It's cool, it's fun, it's awesome. And by no means do I think that I'm the best rider out there. I do not, and I will never say that. I'm just comfortable with this. I'm just comfortable with it, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you ride. You know, I've got guys that say, oh, you should get a Harley, or you should get a sport bike. I do. I would love to have a sport bike one day, but right now, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is my forte, and I ride it to its limits, and it handles great, man. It just handles it all. So that pretty much wraps up the video about this. I just wanted to do a quick review. 21,000, almost 22,000 miles since owning the bike brand new, and I love it. I can't wait to put another 20,000 miles on it, and I hope that it lasts that long, you know. I'm sure it will, and it just all comes down to how you take care of your stuff. I clean this, I ride this bike more than I clean it, but I clean it just about as much as I ride it. It's just, I just love this bike. And you know, you guys that are watching this, let me know in the comments what your guys' honest opinion is about the Scouts. If you guys own them, tell me what your pros and cons are that you find that maybe I didn't talk about in this video. But just tell me why you just do or just absolutely do not like the bike. Tell me what you ride, how you got started. You know, I'd love to hear from you guys. But until then, toe on the ground, head on a swivel, people. See y'all later.